Lots of stuff going on in the news. My goodness, it's been a heck of a couple of days. First off, there is a tremendous amount of um, things are interesting around the world these days. We're not here to talk about that, but even in Canada and locally, there's been some interesting news. The big news today from interest rates, Bank of Canada decided to hold at 5%. We are going to talk later on about zoning with ULCO, but the city has approved zoning. That's coming in January 1st. And then for someone like myself living in the Southeast, the biggest news of all is the LRT opens up November 4th in Southeast Edmonton. So we're very excited about that. But in the meantime, we are here to talk about the market update for Edmonton. This is information, the most current information provided by the Realtors Association of Edmonton. It's September. If you aren't aware and you're new, just go to the Realtors Association of Edmonton, as this information comes out around the 2nd of the next month. So we are going to see information on October, probably around the 2nd of November. Just some of the biggest things to note. It's not good. There we go. So total sales for the month of September, just a little over 2,000. That's a big drop from September of last year, dropped about 8.5% from last month in August. Overall inventory, 6,600. That's down almost 16% from the previous year, down about 3% for August. New listings are about flat to last year. Total residential prices were just shy of $400,000. And overall listings are averaging about 44 days on market. So a couple of interesting things coming up. Again, just how life changes so fast. This information talks about the Bank of Canada looming October announcement. We obviously know that that has held firm at 5%. So that is most likely going to continue to bring a little bit of confidence into the home purchasing market. But the bigger thing that's happening is obviously it's they held because of the fact that they are definitely starting to see some cooling of the markets or cooling of the economy. One thing I wanted to point out was, if you recall, we were about just over 6,000 listings this year in September, and last year we were at 7,700. So we are down quite significantly. The home price index, excellent tool. I love this tool that realtors have access to. This is September to September Edmonton and the greater Edmonton area composite, which basically means all properties in Edmonton and also in the Edmonton area. Edmonton composite, the HPI average price is 373. Sorry, in the greater Edmonton area is about 380. This is down about 4% from last year. And you can see it's been quite a roller coaster ride over the course of the past year. Inflation is down to 3.8%. That's after 2 solid months of increases. All 3 Bank of Canada inflation readings are down. So again, when all of this information came out, pretty much everybody expected that the Bank of Canada was most likely going to make the announcement that they did today, which is to hold rates as is. Alberta inflation is 3.7%. That's a big drop from last month at 4.3%. Alberta is actually back down below the national average for inflation. Last month it popped up. Alberta employment is steady at 5.7%. As we've been talking about, the next Bank of Canada rate was announced today. It's holding. They are talking about the possibility that interest rates might continue to go up if we don't see inflation continue to get under control. I watched Tiff Macklin talk today, and he said that they're anticipating seeing inflation get down to the key interest rate or inflation rate of 2% in 2025. So we are going to see still a slow and steady decline down to that key inflation rate. So moving on to, we like to talk about Calgary because Calgary has been quite busy this year. It has definitely bucked the trend in regards to where the rest of the country is going. Sales jumped 29%. 2,400 homes were sold in September in Calgary. That's a record high. And the benchmark price for HPI is $570,000. That's the HPI benchmark. But average prices for single-family homes are around $700,000 in Calgary. Interesting though, year to date, they're still down. Most likely that I would expect over the next couple of months to start to balance out because things really started to taper off in the fall of 2022. And I would think we're going to see not as much of a significant drop off in 2023 for the next couple of months. This is an interesting stat or note that I saw. So there's a company called Condé Nast that owns a number of magazines. This is a big international company. They own magazines that you might have heard of, like Glamour and GQ. They also have a magazine called Traveling. And Calgary was voted the friendliest city, basically in the entire world. Edmonton was number 2. And we actually had basically Victoria number 3, Dublin, Ireland number 4, and Quebec City was number 5. So it was nice to see the 2 Alberta cities get on a national map like that. The labor supply in Calgary is very significant. They're basically seeing a need of anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 positions needing to be filled. This quote here from this gentleman named Pennier is a contractor company. He's talking about how he used to see 20 resumes a week, and now he's seeing about 5. There is a huge shortage of workers in the city, and there just continues to be a trend of people not really wanting to get into the trades. People want to be, there's other interests, you know, definitely when it comes to software design and anything to do with computers. That seems to be where the young part of the population is really focused. Even SAIT, who was talking about having sort of trades educational courses, is talking about being significantly down. So this doesn't look like it's going to be something that's going to end anytime soon because people just simply aren't getting into the trades, and that's obviously putting a lot of pressure on the situation in Calgary. We've talked over the past few months about the real estate ripple effect and how Calgary being the epicenter, and eventually things are going to start to branch out. This is a great example of that. Lethbridge is really starting to take off. I was actually talking to somebody who owns a couple of rental properties last week in Lethbridge. And each of those properties he feels has gone up over the last couple of years by close to $100,000. So he's doing quite well. He's quite happy. There are lower listings across the province. That's definitely adding to the pressure on prices. As you saw, Edmonton is down. Calgary is definitely down. Lethbridge is also down. The other thing as well, because of the extra costs and high interest rates, home starts are down in the new build sector, and so that's causing some additional pressure on home prices. This is from ATB. Alberta population has boomed. Basically, I just wanted to show you the bottom part there, which is that almost 185,000 people have moved to Alberta in the last 12 months. Pretty impressive. This goes on and says what accounts for it. Again, we've talked about it on this stage over the year. In-migration from other parts of the country, as well as our fair share of immigration from other people coming to the country. Again, the Canadian goal is to get 500,000 new Canadians moving to the country every year, and obviously they're going to come to our fair share is going to come to Alberta, and they're going to come to what is perceived as the economic hub of Alberta, which is Calgary, and eventually they will start to branch out and move to other areas, Lethbridge, Red Deer, and obviously Edmonton. Canadian condo sales are falling amid concerns over interest rate hikes. So basically, if you read the middle section there, condo prices are going down everywhere except 2 cities, Calgary and Edmonton. Those prices are coming up, and I thought that was, as you can see, 22% in the first 8 months in Calgary and 3% in Edmonton. Edmonton condos are called a top investment opportunity. So there's a lot of people from outside the province that are coming to Alberta to purchase condos. Edmonton ranking among the most affordable market for investors seeking a condo with an average price of $193,000. Third lowest average behind Lethbridge and Grand Prairie. Edmonton is particularly notable. Average rents are about $1,360 a month. That's the highest among cities with the lowest average prices and mortgage payments. Calgary also fared well. Its average monthly rent was just shy of $2,000. And the average price is significantly higher than Edmonton. Calgary is one of the few large cities where rent is actually higher than the average mortgage payment. That explains why a lot of people from around the country are coming to Calgary to invest in condos because of the positive cash flow opportunity. There is a comment here. He adds that this trend could likely spill over to Edmonton, given the capital city generally lags Calgary, which is what we've also talked about a lot from this stage, that Edmonton follows Calgary. New zoning, we're not going to touch on this much because Olco is going to talk about this, but it was approved. For anybody that's been watching the local news, it was quite interesting what happened over 5 days at City Council, but by an 11-2 vote, it was approved. It's coming in January 1st. Just some very high-level items. They're reducing the zone from 46 to 24. There's a increase in density or number of units on a piece of land. They're going to allow for businesses and residential communities and ultimately make it easier to begin developments. And Elko will have a lot more to talk about on that. BC is bringing in new rules for short-term rentals. Perhaps somebody has not, maybe somebody in this room has not heard this. May of 2024, the province is bringing in principal residence requirements for short-term rentals, meaning people can only rent out the home in which they live for the majority of the year. Another change is in May of 2024, you have to show a visible business license. And in the summer of next year, short-term rental platforms will be required to share data with the province, including information about hosts. There are going to be some exceptions in some of the resort towns like Tofino and Osoyoos and Whistler. Some of those places are going to be exempt. The province estimates right now that there's about 28,000 short-term rentals across the province. A lot of this is, and where this came from is the feeling is that those 28,000 units could be into the purchase or long-term rental inventory, but they're not. And that's adding to affordability issues in BC, which is why the government is focusing on bringing in these new rules and regulations for short-term rentals. Sounded like a good idea to a city councillor. So Michael Jantz, our city councillor, has introduced a similar change to short-term rentals here in Edmonton. So if you have an interest in short-term rentals or have some short-term rentals, you probably want to watch this folding news story quite closely. Also, if you happen to own a derelict property or have been watching a derelict property wondering whether or not it would be a good investment, that person might be interested in selling now that they're going to see their taxes go up. The city of Edmonton is introducing an increased tax to help pay for the city's costs in regards to managing and maintaining these derelict properties. So this is another item to keep an eye on, and starting in 2024. And Canadian Western Bank is going to be moving its new headquarters to Manulife Place. The reason they're doing this is because Oilers Entertainment Group, that basically is focusing on the Ice District, has decided not to move forward with a 16-story office building because of the fact of the current vacancies in the downtown area. This is another story worth watching right now. Edmonton has the third largest downtown vacancy in the country. There's a lot of focus in regards to what they're going to do with those properties. They're talking about hybrid models. They're talking about introducing residential into some of those office buildings. But I thought this was just basically the point of this story and why I wanted to bring it up is because of the fact that there's some challenges in the downtown core. Anybody that's from here knows if you haven't been there. I talked to somebody earlier today who hadn't been there for 5 years. I said, you probably might not recognize the downtown in some good areas and also in some bad. And certainly there has become a larger vacancy issue on the commercial standpoint. Now, there is a lot of news about the fact that this takes time. It takes about 18 months to 2 years. Stantec's not completely down there, those types of things. But again, if you have any interest in this would be another story worth watching. So to wrap things up, high interest rates are starting to take effect. So that is cooling the economy. That's why the Bank of Canada has cautiously decided to keep interest rates the same. Canada is feeling the effects. Pretty much every second or third news story is about people that are feeling the effects of this. Probably one of the top stories I've heard is that never in the history of Canada has there been more people using food banks. There are some people that are certainly challenged A lot of people are still moving to Alberta. The reason why is that we are the most affordable province in the country. It's interesting to hear about how people that live here are talking about how expensive things are coming, but people from other parts of the province that are moving here are coming here because compared to where they live, this is a very affordable place to live. So it's interesting times. And the last thing as well, we've continued to show how Edmonton follows Calgary, and I think we're probably poised for what we hope to be a pretty strong 2024 in Edmonton. We continue to encourage anybody that wants to continue to get updated and educated on the Edmonton market or in Vancouver. We also have an office. Just reach out to one of your Mogul agents and we'd be happy to chat with you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.